Here's the rule. Use an exclamation point, sometimes called an exclamation mark, at the end of a statement to show emphasis or strong emotion.
What do you mean by show emphasis?
Well, suppose you text two of your friends and ask how they did on a test, and one exclaims, "I passed," and the other writes, "I passed." Do those sentences mean exactly the same thing?
It's the same words, but I passed, exclamation point, means the student is excited, as though he expected to fail.
And the sentence without the exclamation?
That student is more like me. He knew he was going to pass, so it's no big deal.
Well, in that case, it will probably be no big deal for you to apply those ideas in a sentence of your own.
Sure, absolutely.
Fantastic.
If I were talking to your dog Muggs, I might say, "Muggs, if you don't mind, I think I prefer if you stopped chewing on those expensive shoes I just bought." And in this case, I'd be very calm and not use any exclamation points. But I might also be upset and say, "Muggs, exclamation point, you moron, exclamation point, stop eating my shoes, exclamation point, how can you be so stupid, exclamation point."
Excellent. Notice that although your last statement is technically a question, it's really just
another way of yelling at your dog.
Right. And because you really don't want or expect an answer, you can use an exclamation point instead of a question mark.
You do realize that I don't expect any answer since I am talking to your dog.
You know what I mean.
So I could say, "Muggs, are you a moron?" Exclamation point, not a question mark. Or, "Why did you eat my expensive shoes?" Exclamation point, not a question mark.
Yes, you can.
I noticed there's an exclamation point in the title of this product. Punctuation rules.
Well, that's very observant. Now, why do you think it's there?
Well, without the exclamation point, punctuation rules would seem to be the same thing as punctuation lessons. Boring. But with the exclamation point, I see that you mean something like punctuation rocks, or that punctuation rules rock.
And do they?
I wouldn't have thought so, but I can see that they do. They help writers to say what they mean in ways readers can understand.
Be careful, though. Look out for this trap. Don't use exclamation points too often. Otherwise, they lose their impact. One famous writer once said that using an exclamation mark was like laughing at your own joke. Ha ha.
Yeah, that does get annoying. So these sentences don't really need exclamation points? "Muggs, stop whining. I'll get your food in a minute."
Right. You don't seem too upset with Muggs in those sentences. The other mistake that we often make is to load up a statement with multiple exclamation points.
Muggs deserves every one of them, by the way. Sometimes I've seen my friends write, "I can't wait until the weekend," with a row of exclamation points.
Yes, and the problem is that overusing them in a sentence can distort your meaning. In this example, see how the second sentence seems less important than the first, even if that isn't what you intend?
"I can't wait until the weekend," 5 exclamation points. "I'll get a chance to spend some time with you," 1 exclamation point. Yeah, I see your point.
Well, that's good. Now, 2 final points. First, remember that an exclamation point can't change dull writing into something exciting. An exclamation point is something extra, to be used now and then, like your car horn. If you blast it all the time, you become an annoyance, and it won't make your car run better. To hold your reader's interest, you've got to choose effective nouns and verbs. Second, when you use an exclamation point at the end of the sentence, it takes the place of the period, so don't use both.
"Muggs, stop chewing your tail!" Exclamation point, no period.
And on that unappetizing note, remember the rule.
I remember. This rule rules. Use an exclamation point at the end of a statement to show emphasis or strong emotion.